Tiger Woods, the vast majority of people that he follows have the last name Woods. You are an exception.
My name is Ryan Robinson. I am a professional highliner. I've been doing this for about 14 years. And I became immediately obsessed. We feel like if we fall, we're just gonna fail. It's hard to live a life where you're on a path. There was no path. There's all these voices and all these agendas. You need to care about this. You need to listen to this. But I felt this call to experience something different. Had an internal feeling would change me. Solitude. I didn't really have any experience on a motorcycle, and I always wanted to. I just wanted to go out and just see what would happen. I had a cowboy blanket and a tarp. There were catastrophic moments. This guy just rolls up on a bicycle, told me that he chose to end a couple lives. I heard multiple people screaming for me to get off the line. I look to my left and I see a military helicopter coming right at me. And when he hit it, I had to be ready. You may not have this opportunity again. Go for it.
Tiger Woods follows a number of people. The vast majority of people that he follows have the last name Woods. You are an exception
Yeah.
to that.
It's beyond me. I don't know. I was only recently, I only recently became aware of that. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
What a funny world.
I would say so. Ryan, I think you'd be a good voice. I don't know him, but I think you'd be a good voice for him. And maybe he would learn some things being on a highliner with you.
I would love that. I never put anything past the universe
Yeah.
to create opportunities. This path has been,
So crazy.
it's so serendipitous that some of it sounds unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read The Alchemist?
I haven't.
Oh, it's so good.
I know you're giving me a lot of homework here.
Yeah.
That I
It's
like.
a good one.
Okay.
But there's a line in there that says, when you decide what you want, all the world will conspire with you to give you that thing.
Hmm.
No truer statement. No truer statement. It's just energy.
Yeah.
You can remove the spirituality out of it. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
When
The
you-
frequency and
when
Yeah.
you want something, and that has happened through my entire career. And so this, when I became aware of that, I was like, awesome. I would love to meet that man. What an opportunity.
yeah, absolutely.
Kind of leave it up to the universe. Look, it's been crazy. Like getting DMs from famous people and having those opportunities to just shoot the breeze and talk about life or whatever.
You know, my understanding is you're on the backside of a year, a little off the grid.
Yeah.
And this kind of represents a first step back in encountering and stepping back into the world as you know it. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting us with this moment. Thank you for trusting me with this moment, just to process it with you. And so that was a motorcycle ride across the Americas, which sounds like something I would say in history class, like the Americas. What can we start there? Are you good with that?
Sure.
I want to hear about this. I want to hear, how do you look at this? Where do you start when you go, I'm gonna ride a motorcycle? What's the starting point? What's the goal? Like, man, take me there.
The starting point, often, I think more often than maybe is said, is usually some event or pause, or maybe you reach a certain age, call it what you will.
Yeah.
But I just felt this call to experience something different, a solitude that I had an internal feeling would change me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So a draw to solitude.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like I was reading this morning, there's a guy named Henri Nguyen, And he said, solitude is the call to the great struggle and the great encounter.
Yeah.
And so I love that you're saying it that way, that there was a draw to solitude. So you're feeling that.
Yeah, it was not easy. And I didn't really have, so when I started doing this thing, I didn't really put specific rules on it. That was big to me. I think that's where a lot of people get skipped up with some of the change that we desire in our lives, at least for me. And so my intentions, while my big picture was pretty clear, this is kind of what I desire to hopefully understand about myself or the world, or recalibrate myself with nature. That was a big part of it. But I didn't put strict rules on where I was going to go or how fast or how far, or especially coming from a career where when you do something that's visually spectacular, like highlining, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
It does become a thing where it can be scripted, or there's a very specific outline of what's going to be accomplished. We're going to rig this line, and we have to be in these mountains and do this thing. And so there's this sort of sketch of how it's going to look. I didn't want a sketch. I just wanted to go out and just see what would happen. And I did.
Yeah.
In every expansive way. And it's challenging to sit here when I was sitting in the forest for a year and try to, put words to that. But what I can say is it was expansive.
Yeah.
Among other things. But it was a huge failure at first, by the way. Yeah.
Okay.
Just totally ate shit.
Well, where did you physically start? Like, just the physical map of,
Yep.
like, okay, I'm going to start here.
Yep.
And I'm going to head here. Like, physically, where were those places?
I started in Northern California in the foothills. And then I kind of started with a few days at a time just to see how it would go. I didn't really have any experience on a motorcycle, and I always wanted to. So I kind of just started there. I got a little box and threw some stuff in it and started heading out. And the first night was horrible. I was cold and I was, scared. I didn't really know where I was going to go and if I had the right food or, whatever, clothing. I packed all the wrong stuff. I had like 3 pairs of clothing and no food. What are you doing? So, you learn pretty quickly that way.
Yeah.
But over the course of, doing that and then doing 3 days and then doing 5 days and then realizing that I could actually take this really impossibly difficult thing. Like, it's one thing to be on a motorcycle. It's a whole different thing to have this intention of camping off of the motorcycle, having what you need, and then also keeping your sanity and all that other stuff. So, but learning how to do this really hard thing, it helped me redesign systems for my life. And that's been probably one of the biggest advantages of.
Man, I love that. I love that you're going into it without it scripted, or in kind of discovering how you're doing it as you're actually doing it, just figuring it out as you go. So first night, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. So was there any thought like,
it was horrible. And I was really doing it pretty rugged too. I wanted to do it. My rules for myself were start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. So that was the big number one pillar for my whole trip. And that went for everything. So I did it unsponsored. I didn't, go out with, loads of money from companies or tons of gear or whatever. And that was a huge, humbling and empowering lesson in how much I had available to me just with what I had laying around. It really makes you scrappy, which that, if I could describe how I got wherever I am, it's just pure scrap.
Yeah.
We were raised in a kind of a different time where being scrappy was a little bit more of a thing that was, I don't know. It was just a different time. There weren't as many resources as there are now. And those resources, while they are hugely beneficial in a lot of ways, I do see them being a hindrance to a lot of progress that can be made too through that really cathartic, difficult process of figuring something out.
Yeah.
Analog. Like, what do I have that I can touch that's right here in front of me?
Yep.
So I didn't go out and buy nice things. I just wore what I had, and I used what I had, and used rope to strap it up, and figured it out.
Tent? Did you?
I didn't have a tent. I had a cowboy blanket and a tarp. And yeah, that was part of my rule for myself. I really wanted to be under the stars.
Okay.
That was a primary driver for what I wanted. Fresh air, just kind of reset my body. I don't know if it was, the whole COVID conversation's a thing, but I really did feel that I needed to rediscover my health as well. And I was traveling for a decade as an athlete, and being on planes and in hotel rooms, and I was losing this sense of time relative to nature, and I didn't like that at all.
Yeah,
So
what do you mean by that? Time relative to nature. Help me with that.
I feel like a lot of the human experience is we're trying to get ahead of time, and it just doesn't really work like that. And if you spend too much time being ahead or trying to get ahead, you're missing what's here.
Yeah.
You and me are right here.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in this room.
Yep.
And most, or I would say a lot of the human experience is, time traveling to the future or the past. And that's where emotions come from. So I learned being super present that not only can it's not so much control, it's just the very present realization that my feelings are coming from either a perception of a future or a judgment of the past, or a perception, a closed perception. And I could open my perspective and see that those are just feelings. They're valid, but learning to find the root in the present, that changed everything. And so when I speak to nature time, that's kind of what I mean. You go sit by a river for 3 weeks and you start to, it's like you are the company you keep. So if your company is a river and a mountain and a tree, they're experiencing time relative to them. And we're experiencing time relative to us. We have these unique abilities as humans to kind of, in a way, sort of manipulate and try to navigate our way to better situations.
Right. I got to maximize it.
Yeah. But then you have to define better. And so that was a huge lesson on my trip too. Like, well, what is better? Why do I need to try to push life when I can allow it to change me from the inside and from my relationship with my environment?
What were the struggles to get to that, if you want to say it this way? Because like I've had a few experiences like this where I recognize that it takes a little bit of time for me to actually slow down internally. Like, you can make the physical decision, I'm out of the environment that I'm in that goes fast, but the internal speed, knowing in the awareness of, okay, now I'm slowing down. How was that for you, and what was the struggle to bail on that, if there was at the beginning? Because that's a long time. Solitude is not an easy thing.
Surrender.
Okay.
Surrender. A lot of hard nights. A lot of challenging moments sitting with myself and not looking for an escape plan, and intentionally sitting with those moments where hours are turning to days. But it doesn't start that way. It starts with seconds. Like, you're freaking out and it's only been 5 seconds. And then it starts to slowly shift. But the really amazing thing, and of course this happened over the course of months, is I realized one day I was watching the moon, and I just realized that I started tracking time with the sun and the moon. And then
Your sleep patterns, your
everything. And that that whole roll down of me trying to get ahead. In my whole life, I have been very, to a fault maybe, just pushing, and I want to experience everything, and I'm glutton for punishment. I love suffering. It started at an early age, and I got into triathlons and Ironman and all these things. I just wanted to see how much I could suffer. And there's growth in that. It's not everybody's path, but life is suffering. And I believe that if I choose my suffering, then I have the ability to mitigate it. And it makes other life suffering something that's more understandable.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that you've done over 100 triathlons. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I want to come back to that, because
We'll
I
come
have
back to that.
like your mindset and all of that. Like I can't wait to. I want to hear about that. But you're in this place, solitude.
Yeah.
How long into that were you before you kind of settled into, hey, I'm gonna do this for a while? Like I said, a year at the beginning of our conversation, but you didn't really have a map for how long you were going to do that. How long did you just go like, okay, I'm gonna be here a minute?
It was a slow development that happened over the course of, like, the first 2 months, I would say, were very exciting. You're doing something new. There's all this, there are all these things happening that I haven't experienced, which is really cool. I'm learning how to navigate the road on a motorcycle. I'm realizing that I can get to all these cool places that I couldn't get in a car. And so that was really exciting. But then, you get 2 months in, and that kind of novelty starts to fade, and tired, really tired. Every day is a grind, because every morning I have to wake up. Every morning I have to clean up camp. I have to make sure I pack perfectly, because there's a place for everything. And that's the only way you can do it on a motorcycle.
Right.
I know where every quarter is. I know where every piece of rope or a zip tie or whatever.
Because you're using all of it.
Yep.
Everything has a purpose. I can't.
Yeah. And that helped with, it helped with not going insane, having processes and systems,
Yeah.
So that definitely helped. But I would say it wasn't until maybe 6 or 7 months in that I really started to align with, I guess you could call it nature's time, nature's clock.
6, 7 months in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it was powerful. Then I could really sit and just be in those moments. And then all of a sudden, I had an intention of journaling from the beginning, but I didn't really in the beginning, because I was just so chaotically busy trying to figure this thing out. And then 6 or 7 months in, it just started. And I was writing for hours a day, hours. And that was really when I knew that I was changing. Because I knew I wanted change. I didn't really know how to define that. But I think from my experience and what I've learned, especially with this experience, so often we try to tell the universe or God or whatever you want to call that energy, how to change us. Make me this. Dang it. I want this. I desired this. And it wasn't until I just finally gave up trying to, tell God how to answer my prayers. How dare I? And then everything started changing. And the change is like stuff that you could never have anticipated. And then it happens, and it was like, wow, I was so focused on this changing, and all I had to do was like do a 180 and realize there's this formula. Have you heard of Euler's formula?
No, I have not.
I'm not a mathematician, so I don't want to butcher it, but essentially it's the difference between looking at something from a two-dimensional perspective or a three-dimensional perspective. And so if you were to kind of put that, like apply that formula to life can feel very circular, but if you look at it from a different perspective, it's actually a helix, and it's rising based on one of the parts of the formula that is this imaginary element. And life can feel so linear, but the formula suggests that there's actually a curvature to the linear reality of time, such that if you with those very small turns, it's actually very circular.
Yeah.
And I felt that elevation, because I kind of felt myself coming back to the same place, and that I was kind of considering if change was really occurring, And then over time, I'd come back to the same place and realize I'm not the same person. That's interesting.
Is that coming out in what you're writing? Like, are you writing about like situations or moments in life that you had seen a certain way, and then now you see a different way?
Yeah. Two answers to that.
Okay.
One is I studied philosophy in college, and I studied international intercultural communication. So I've always been a study of the human experience in philosophy, and my mind always goes that way. The second thing I'll say is I'm often asked, and we'll get to highlining, walking on ropes later, but I'm often asked what I'm thinking about on the line. And man, I'm up there for hours. There's stuff going on up there, but when you're on the line, there's not a lot of time to write. So I come off the line.
Now you have the time to write what you think about when you're on the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And another intention that I had that I didn't really know was so important to me was mapping out my own values and my own morals and my own standards for living outside of the confines of what I had learned as a kid, or whatever structures exist and social contracts and everything. And I just went to zero.
This is what matters to me. The wiring of me. This is what it looks like.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a very honest moment. It's a very raw moment. And I learned that too in this rope walking life that I do. It's very raw. It's very honest. And if yourself isn't honest, then the experience isn't going to be honest. And who I am creates the vibrations in my life. And that was a really powerful moment for me, positive and negative, the ripple effect that I personally have on the world. And
so you're having to wrestle with the negative that you are looking back going, yeah, I had some negative effect here. I did this, and okay.
Yeah. And I try not to look at positive, negative. It's such a, obviously base foundation of what's actually happening, because all of us are experiencing life. We're doing the best we can with the tools we have available to us. And, you don't always have the best tools. Like I said, I was scrappy growing up and getting into a sport that's pretty wild. It falls into the extreme category. Yeah, you're going to get some extreme people. There's just this side of me that's completely wild, and I lean into that. And sometimes you lean a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
So a time came in my life where I wanted to consider all those things and figure out how to, navigate forward, realizing the vastness of life too.
Sure. Was there a breaking point for you?
Yes. Yeah. Many. Yeah. It could have been a random Tuesday morning, or there were catastrophic moments. Like I was trying to cross a river, and I didn't realize it was like 5 feet deep, and tanked my bike, and I'm spinning in this river. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then there's a breakdown, and I'm 20 miles from anything. Got to figure it out. And those little moments, they can trigger breakdowns. But a lot of the breakdowns were more subtle. And the heaviest one happened closer to the end, there was a span of about a week where I experienced both ends of it. All I took with me was a 360 camera. I didn't want to look at myself on my iPhone and take a video. I think that it's easy to fall into self-obsession these days with like a front-facing camera, you know?
Yeah.
And I wanted to just experience outward-facing.
Yeah.
But there's a video somewhere, and I just was telling myself about my experience on my 360 camera, and I just broke down. It was I didn't want it to end, because I got to this place where I was on this frequency with nature and with myself. And then a few days later, it hit me kind of like into the wild. I mean, I don't remember exactly what he wrote on the side of his bus, but it was this heavy realization that life is nothing if it's not shared. That was heavy.
Why?
Because I felt so empowered and accomplished that I had developed this incredible strength and fortitude in my chest and in my soul, and no one knew. And I wish in certain ways, I mean, this falls into the category of regret, which I don't agree with. But that was a really hard moment. And then later, after delving into that and having grace for myself, I learned also that it's not too late to share it either. So here we are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's worth sitting in a little bit. And yeah. What were those conversations like? Like, are you encountering any other people and moments and like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was really cool, actually. I would just meet people on the road, and you meet different people when you're in the back roads and going to weird gas stations and people that are 50, 100 miles off the beaten path. And
like, I think about that, and I think like there's a part of me where if you see someone and you're miles from cities and people, that there's a little bit of communication, like, hey, I'm not a threat. I hope you're not a threat.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
The motorcycle helped. This is kind of a different topic, but I won't go too far on it. But character building, like the character that we present to the world, is a big part of my, I don't know, superpower, I guess. I've just learned that who you present yourself as can take you in any direction that you want. That was a really cool framing lesson for me that I've learned over the years. I did door-to-door sales when I was younger. We can get into that too, but talk about being a chameleon. You got to get people's trust in 5 seconds.
Yep.
Especially when they have a gun in their hand and they're telling you to get off your porch or they're going to shoot you. You got to know what you're going to say. And then get welcomed into their home,
now that they put the gun away.
Yeah. But on the motorcycle, I was this character, and I wore the same thing almost every day for a year, just this tank top. I almost wore it, but tank top and cut off shorts and just not threatening. And I'm just on this adventure, and they see my bike and they see my bags, and so they can build in their mind pretty simply what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that, in a way, provides them with a trust. And people just open up about the craziest stuff. And it kind of made me feel like a traveling shepherd in a way, just being able to give people that space. And for so many years of my life, that space was given to me because of the cool things I was doing and getting interviewed and having these opportunities to do videos and stuff. And creating that space for other people was the most profound thing. It just was a further realization that every person on this planet is experiencing life in a complex and as diverse a way as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Sonder. It's a great word.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So
A lot of crazy stories too, though. You want to hear one?
I do.
I was taking a nap on the side of this little freeway and just laying on the ground, and this guy just rolls up on a bicycle and casually told me that he chose to end a couple lives. And there was some, I guess, abuse going on, and I just stayed anonymous. You know, I don't want to know anyone's name or anything, but hey, if you want to tell somebody, I'm probably the only person he ever told.
So I'm trying to piece this together. Like, you're asleep on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And you wake up to a bike.
Yeah.
The noise of a bike riding up on you.
My ears, I turned into a light sleeper. Got to be smart. I always have my knife on my side, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just rolled up and said hey, and I said hey, and we got to talking, and pretty quickly he just went into it. And it felt like he'd been holding it for a long time, but it was the right thing to do. It sounded like a pretty serious situation, but what an epic thing to just hear within a 5-minute span. And he's like, "Man, all right, man. Well, I'm gonna go, down to the store, and nice to meet you." All right. What just happened?
For real.
And there were quite a few, like confessions.
Yeah.
Very interesting. It was very eye-opening. This sort of realization, perhaps, that every person craves a level of acknowledgement or grace, or even just a listening ear.
Yeah. Some sort of safe place to go, I'm carrying this. I got to get it out.
Mm-hmm. People open up to me. I don't know if it's just the way I developed my character, but they just love it, and I love it. What a great experience. So,
okay, so if that's the dark, I mean, he goes down the road and you're like, well, I just spent some time talking with a guy that needed to tell someone he killed people. So we got dark. What were some good similar moments?
Oh man, there were so many. Well, this isn't a person, but one of the more powerful moments. I was sleeping next to this beautiful lake.
Okay.
I was there for a couple days, and I was crouched down next to the water in the morning, and I heard this big whoosh over my head, and I looked up, and there was this beautiful bald eagle, like 10-foot wingspan. Didn't even flap his wings, and he just flew a mile out, picked the most perfect fish out of the water, and just flew right back over my head, landed in the tree up on top. I just couldn't believe it. And then a feather fell from the tree. So I put that thing in my helmet, and I rode it the rest of my trip. Funny little things like that happen.
Yeah.
And when you're alone, everything has meaning. So it turned into this really magnificent thing that, when you share it, there's obviously the context, the depth of that moment. To me, it's kind of just a thing. So there's these sacred parts of these experiences too that compound and compress into who I am. I think that's like one of the challenges of storytelling these days too, is everything's just now and 5-second blips and things like that. But when I really chose to take time to build just a complex and diverse year, what happened is I realized I don't need to actually tell the whole story, because I became a physical representation of what I experienced. One does not simply get into highlining because death, like, it's really serious. So you have to get into it with a mentor. And that being mentored, that initiatory process, that develops the very clear and specific steps to making a highline safe. So a really good way of putting it is you have rock climbing and you have highlining. Rock climbing, you have the rock. You're not trying to use your gear at all, ideally, unless you have a slip or whatever, and then your rope catches you. Highlining is the opposite. It's completely gear dependent. So it has to be perfect as it can be. There's slight variations of what that perfection looks like, you know, when we've rigged highlines to big chunks of bushes. It's not my favorite thing, but sometimes you got to work with what you've got. But it's safe, you know, and done the right way.
Yeah.
But you learn, and then in that process, you become initiated into that reality, and that's a rite of passage.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons I sought it out too, because there was this rite of passage that created through that process of understanding something in depth and knowing that it was safe, knowing every single piece of every gear, knowing its breaking strength, knowing what its fail point was, understanding the conditions of the mountains and things like that. That there's so much power in that. And so that speaks back to what I was mentioning before of the freedom that comes with understanding the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a moment in the trip where, I mean, you told me about another moment where your bike gets washed away in a river, but you were in an accident.
Yeah. Yeah. The universe has a sense of humor. You got to be careful what you wish for, you know, because you might get it. And the universe teaches in very unique ways.
What do you?
I thought I was going to go forever. I was planning to pack my bag and go across the country, actually. That's why I went back into the city. And then I got hit by a truck.
Okay. Okay. So physically started Northern California, matriculating your way down.
Yeah.
So where are you at this point? I mean, we're kind of hitting, you know, different moments of your journey, but physically, where were you?
I was actually back in Sacramento.
Okay.
Stocking up, yeah. One of the things about my trip that I haven't mentioned is I really didn't put a strong intention on, like I said, getting as far as I wanted to go or hitting these points.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's how the universe works, in the sense of like life is happening while you're making plans, right? And it's happening. Like, this is happening. And even though I know I'm sitting here with you, my mind is time traveling, right? And it takes me away and I need to find my way back. And that's kind of the ironic circular reality of this experience, right? Because you're here. Obviously, I'm trying to, you know, remember those moments to extract that value. But that value comes when that value is needed, oftentimes. So interviews can be difficult. Like, another example is you don't know, like, sometimes I don't know the answer to a question until that moment hits me. And I was approached by wolves on my trip. I was just cooking dinner, and it was actually a really spiritual experience. It sounds, yeah. Every good story starts with this. It sounds crazy. I was cooking dinner and I was watching the clouds. The moon was beautiful. And I noticed, it sounds crazy. I looked up in the clouds and I saw what kind of started looking like a face in the clouds.
Okay.
And like, oh, that's really interesting, cooking. And then I started, like, everything got really quiet. You may have heard this, if things get quiet in nature, you got to pay attention. And as I'm looking at the cloud, it started to turn into like an angry face. And then it started to turn into what looked like a wolf, actually. It was really trippy. And all the hair on my body stood up. And I grabbed my knife. I carry a big buck knife. And I flipped it around and I turned around and all I saw was two eyes, and then two eyes behind it and two eyes behind it. And it was about this high up. And I'm in the middle. I'm so far from anything. And it was just this moment. And I knew that I had to do, I was just acting by instinct. And I just knew that one of two things were going to happen. He wanted my food and I had to protect myself. And I grabbed my knife and I just ran straight at him as hard as I could. And he just took like a half step back and he's just staring at me. This guy,
he's calling your bluff.
This guy means business, dude.
Yeah.
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 And I just didn't stop running. And he finally started back walking and then took off. But I could see their eyes over there for like the next 10 minutes. So I packed my bike up and I left. It was the right thing to do. But it's
but
just
as
instinct.
a spiritual moment, you're feeling like I'm being communicated to.
Yeah.
I'm warned. Just that in tuneness with being able to listen and be aware and then see that happen the way that it did.
Those moments happened. The more in tune I was with nature, I knew everything that was happening all the time. I felt like I was just aware because I was understanding. I was on nature's clock now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sounds too crazy to even believe. I even hesitate telling the stories because it's so sacred in a way to be connected like that.
Sure.
But that started happening, more and more and more especially towards the end. Yeah.
So you go into Sacramento.
And just, they say it happens fast. Let me tell you, I got 2 letters out, F and U. and then
boom.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just a kind of a fluke thing. I woke sort of my eyes. I don't remember it much. I'm okay. 10 fingers. Everything's good. Pretty gnarly concussion. I ruptured some ligaments in my neck.
Okay.
But I was laying on the ground, and I've had unfortunately a few of these moments in my life where the eyes open and you wonder if you're somewhere else. I opened my eyes and through my visor, I just saw 15 people surrounding me and I'm like, oh shit. I hope this isn't heaven because these are some weird looking people.
No, I hope Sacramento and heaven look a little different.
Yeah. But that was the end of that. And that was a hard day.
How long did you have to spend in the hospital?
It was pretty short. Thankfully, the injuries weren't severe to a degree that I would need to stay. So I was able to go home and then the recovery process began. But, this is the part where the universe has a sense of humor. Let's see, about a month and a half after that happened, I got a call. My stepdad had been battling cancer for about 8 years. He was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer about 8 years ago. And I got that call, the call that, is happening, that it was close. And and I had carved this space out in my life to have this adventure, and it was cut short and I was devastated and I didn't know, nothing made sense. I was angry with God or whatever for taking this beautiful experience and my strength that I developed and my health, and now I'm out here recovering, and then I get this call. I'm like, yep, I got to go to Nebraska. And so I did, and I got to spend the last month of his life with him. Yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah. Profound. Death is it was profound. There's American culture has a hard time with death. I've gotten this really cool experience to see it from other perspectives and other cultures and just through my own. But this is the part where the universe, it's not a sense of humor, it's a sense of, I get it. And I kind of felt prepared for that moment.
Like you're taking you were able to take this new perspective and this changed you into this place with your stepdad to be able to be present with him and
Super. And at that point, I wasn't even turning my phone on anymore. So being there with him was the most beautiful gift. I don't know if there's maybe good ways and bad ways to die, but he died well. Yep. But being that connected to it was, I was able to bring that gift, call it a gift, to my family too, and ask people to be present. And just to be there to study him, to study that experience of how profound both life and death and and watching it become crystallized in this moment where you realize that there's actually a clock now for him. And we're going through pictures and I'm watching all of these friends from 30, 40, 50, 60 years of life coming and seeing him. And wow.
There's a verse in scripture that is a prayer that says, teach us to understand the brevity of life.
Yeah.
It feels you're able to have some of that perspective and in that moment, and even for your family.
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you for sharing that.
Well, it's a human experience. We'll all experience it. And having experienced it now, these people come out of the woodworks that I had no idea had gone through something, because they don't bring it up, because they're living life the best they can, and it's not something you want to enter a room saying immediately, but
it's a connecting moment that if you're honest, every single human knows.
Yeah. And the details in that fabric are so profound too. Like a few days after it happened, a really good friend of mine reached out, just, sending love and stuff like that. And I didn't know that her mother tragically died in this very specific way. And I didn't know she'd been carrying that around. So now all of a sudden I have this huge, expansive ability to have compassion.
Yeah, you can have shared experiences over here, but if there's not a connecting moment and a connection in those, then they're just isolated, even though they're shared, even though everyone knows and the pain is there. It changes everything to be able to.
And that was a deviation too for me from highlining, because trying to help people understand what the experience is on a highline, I'm venturing to say that it's something you may not ever do. So
feels judgmental, Ryan.
Maybe not. Hey, you want to get on a line, let's do it.
We'll see. I'll talk to Anna, see what she thinks about that.
But that's something where I have to try to express it to you.
Yeah.
But this human moment, this human emotion, this human experience of death, someone you love or whatever, I don't need to explain that to someone that's gone through it. Right. So there's this, I've been able to connect with people in that way that feels very acknowledging on a human level. It's really easy to sort of feel disconnected when you do a thing that few people do.
Yes.
That's been cool.
I want to hear, so you mentioned a mentor. At what point, so was it before you were doing triathlons, or like where did highlining and how did that become part of?
Yeah, it was a crazy thing. I had, we'll have to go back a little bit so I can build that part of it.
Yeah.
So I got into triathlon. The reason was kind of funny. I when I was a kid, I used to run away a lot.
Okay.
It was kind of my way of coping. There was tumultuous beginnings and
in your home and
so after Brazil, my parents divorced. My dad decided he wanted to live his life differently. And so he brought us back to California, a place we'd never lived. Within a month of being there, he packed up a U-Haul and took off. And so I went from 13 to 25 real quick. And one of 6 kids too, so I'm second to the oldest.
Okay.
So this was pretty monumental. 6
Absolutely.
kids.
And right at that, I mean, we talked about a rite of passage and that time frame of your life, and you even mentioned, writing 12-year-old you, and so that moment for you is a massive moment.
Yeah. A lot changed really quickly. So from my kid brain, I just started running. And it was great. And at first it was running away, but then I realized the running thing was really the driver. It was making me feel better. So I started getting into that. I was still pretty deviant and destructive, and I was really angry as a kid. A lot of it was justified, but there's 6 kids, so giving one kid enough attention isn't really going to happen from like one sweet mother that's trying her best.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to say,
yeah.
I can say I know, and
Yeah.
Anna and I have 6, so
You have 6 kids.
we do.
Look at you doing it right.
Yeah, we love it. It's funny, we didn't plan to have a big family, and now we have 6 kids, and so I know the picture. I can't imagine the picture. I know the demand on Anna and I to be teammates and to try, and I know what it is to get to the end of the day and feel like I'm not enough for them. As a single mom, I 6 kids wanting to be enough, and you being in the middle of that. I see it.
Yeah, you have really good perspective on it. What a beautiful thing, right? Yeah, it was profound. It was hard to wrestle with as a kid because I didn't understand it. I'm so defiantly loyal to my family and my siblings and my mother, and so it was a really wild experience to have, and learning to navigate that. And the navigation process was not simple, and it was not clean. I was actually arrested for fighting when I was 18. That was a big wake-up call, and I was court mandated to do anger management, which, hey, it works, turns out. So I went that route.
Good to know.
Yeah. So I cleaned up my life, and it was hard. I had to do work project every Saturday and Sunday, 8 hours, and I had to pay for it. So I was working full time and then cleaning up a high school in a crappy neighborhood. And I'll never forget, I would go and I would mow every lawn and I would rake every freaking thing. And there's officers watching, because there's a bunch of guys. And they came over to me and they'd say, like, you don't have to work so hard. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm here. I'm going to work my face off. If I have to be here, even if you don't care, I know who I am. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do. And that was part of my penitence, I guess, to make right by the world.
Ryan, that book, Unbroken? So Louis Zamperini and his story. Like I'm hearing some parallels here of anger and running, and then you kind of discover I'm actually good at this.
Yeah. The good at this part didn't come for a while. The truth be told, I'm not fast. Okay. I just realized that I could suffer more than most people. That's where triathlon kind of came in. And so I got into bicycles at a young age. My dad is big into bicycles, so that was kind of part of my path too. We got really into, I don't know if you've ever heard of Danny McCaskill or like bicycle trials. Basically like balancing, you can go on your back wheel and jump up onto picnic tables and jump off of stuff. And we got really into that. So that was kind of the beginnings of balance. And that was super fun. I got on a bike team. We used to go to schools and do helmet safety courses and then just huck jumps and jump off stuff. And it was great. I convinced my mom to let us do homeschool so we could ride our bikes. I was just a wild kid.
Yeah.
And she just wanted to make sure that, you know, we were happy. She was willing to do whatever it took, especially given the circumstances.
So you're doing that after Dad had left.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yep. Yep. And then over the course of time, I discovered that I think someone mentioned to me, hey, you should do triathlons. You just got to learn how to swim, and it's a swim and a bike and a run. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I signed up for like a little mini one. I thought I was going to die, you know. It's just horrific. I'd never really experienced that combination of athletic, you know. But then I did one, I did another, and it was something to focus on. And yeah, I realized I was pretty good at suffering. So I got a job at a triathlon shop, and that made it more affordable. And
you're immediately plugged into that world.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole, I mean, that the world of ultras, and there's a mindset. I'm fascinated by that, of just, you know, some call it like the pain cave, you know, the dirty fuel, whatever, that place of, it's almost therapy. I mean, there's a lot of people that do, you know, ultras that have literally come out of addiction.
Yeah.
And those type of things. And so it's a therapy. And so for you, you're wrestling with anger, and this becomes, I mean, was it that kind of therapy for you?
Yeah. I didn't know it at the time,
Hmm.
but yeah, you know, life teaches you these things kind of in the rearview mirror, and you see it more clearly, which is beautiful. Youth is just chaotic energy blasting in every direction, you know, and then you multiply that by traumatic events, and you've got a recipe for wild, you know, whatever that looks like. And so over my learning experiences, I learned to kind of put that wild in the right basket the best I could.
Yeah.
I mean, it's surprising we didn't get arrested for whatever other shenanigans we were doing. Nothing crazy, nothing bad. You know, we were just wild kids. We were feral, raised on a ranch.
Right. This looks like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do first, then think later. Yeah.
How do we make things blow up? How do we, you know, how big of a rock can we throw off this bridge or whatever?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That sounds great.
Yeah. But yeah, learning to turn it into something. And then I started getting more serious, and I started becoming exposed to more opportunities that existed. And one of those opportunities that started to exist after 2001 was, you know, the whole 9/11 thing. We're at war, and then there's that young calling to go, you know, be tough. And I learned about the Navy SEALs. I was like, holy shit. I bet I could suffer enough to make it. I bet I could. And this was when I was finally starting to get into the higher ranks of triathlon and competing.
How old are you at this point? In
22, 23, 24, like in that kind of range.
Yeah. Yep.
So I started heavily focusing my energy, and triathlon was a great introduction to even seeing if I had what it took or whatever. So yeah, got really strong and really dialed, and went down to the office and started filling out paperwork, and I was gonna do it. And then the universe has a sense of humor, as it always does. And I woke up in the hospital after a training ride. I was a John Doe. I didn't have my ID on me. And my mom had to come say, that's my son. Is he okay? And I somehow, we were on a training ride. My bike got mixed up with someone else's, I guess, from what I heard.
Okay.
And yeah, it flipped me over onto my head, and I cracked my skull, and yeah, messed up a few things. And that ended any opportunity of military. So there was this devastation period of a few years.
Yeah. Mourning what the plan that you thought you had. And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even if it wasn't, you know, 100% or completely done, it was this, you plant a seed in your head, and it's going to grow.
Yeah. Yep.
Whatever that seed is, as long as the conditions are right. And that's been a cool life lesson too. There's all these things happening, and it feels kind of magical, but it's very real. You plant a seed. If the conditions are right, it's going to happen. And the conditions weren't right, or the universe decided it was not right, and that path was eliminated. So in a way, though, it relieved my desire to, or my this craving to conquer the world as a young child who was experiencing this hard thing. And when you're young, your little world is the whole world.
Right. Yep.
You know?
But even some of that missing, can I do this? That affirming moment. I gotta prove that I'm tough. I can conquer. I have what it takes. Kind of a thing.
Yep.
Okay, so you're doing triathlons in that, you stay in that world.
Yep.
Doing. I mean, looking at, if you've done over 100, Ryan, that's quite a clip of, you're living in some pain for a while. Did you have any awareness? I mean, I look at these and go, at a certain point, this can't be good for you. Like,
yeah. When you're in it, it becomes passive. I mean, that's the weird thing about suffering, is it's just a definition based on your current ability to comprehend something, you know? And I didn't know that at the time, but now, having suffered in so many different ways, I realized I wasn't actually suffering, because now I've just risen to that capacity of that. It's no longer suffering, because I created systems to mitigate the suffering. So
it's normalized.
Yeah.
For you, what is that headspace for you when you're in the middle of a triathlon? Like, where do you go?
It's a lot like highlining, actually. Interestingly enough, my eyes aren't, they're scanning, make sure you don't hit something in the road. But we think about our senses in this very narrow dimensional way, and I learned that in a much more comprehensive way on the highline. But the mind's eye is doing a lot of the work. So really, what's happening for me in triathlon is just a constant systems check. How am I doing? How my legs feel? How do my feet feel? Are my arms numb? And that removes the emotion from, the woe is me thing that can come in. I'm so tired. Oh, I can't do this. Shut up. And so you learn to turn that off over the course of years of doing something, and not necessarily turn it off, but just reframe it in a way that's actually productive. Because no matter what you're experiencing, at least for me, eventually you're going to get tired of your own bullshit. You can only be this woe is me person for so long, and eventually, someday, you're going to look in the mirror. And that's I've actually used that as advice for other people that are going through stuff. I'm like, you need to, you know what? You feel like you're going crazy? Go nuts. Just put rules on it. Don't die. Don't hurt anyone. Don't hurt yourself. Go crazy. Stay sober. I try to tell people that, but to each their own. But there's something at the end of that, because I think it's important to personally have factual knowledge of what works. And I mean, now more than ever, there's information available to tell you all these things. You can find this anywhere, that it works. And, people have proven that it works. But you can only truly know something, I think, if you know for yourself.
Yeah.
If you truly know.
It, yeah.
I mean, you know this.
Yeah.
You have 6 kids.
Yeah.
You know certain things that other people maybe don't know because of your unique experience. And you know for a fact, based on trying your best to be a good father, what works and what does not work. Be a good husband, and knowing how to mitigate your attention and your awareness and your compassion, and also being, the man of the house and protecting and providing, finding this delicate balance and understanding how to do that gracefully.
Well, it's fascinating for me, because you're in a sport that it feels like there's just such a razor thin line between pushing yourself and knowing and growing in your capacity to suffer, to finish, and the point where, recently there was a woman that died in the middle of an ultra, and so the mindset of that is just fascinating to me, to think of when you're in that. Like I see what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
of you're not seeing with your eyes, you're aware, but your mind's eye, you're checking systems, and yeah. There's a question in there somewhere. I don't know.
I think I know
I'm
where you're going
processing
with
out
it.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, how do I respond? I think it's, well, maybe I'll let you try.
Yeah. So were there moments that you thought, I might die?
In my immature brain, yes. In my complainer brain. In my mature brain, no. I've been close to that line a few times with just almost that occurred, but I never felt close because I don't know what death is. I've never died before, you know?
Yeah. Fair point.
I mean, maybe I have. I truly, at this point, that's another story we'll get into later, but it was never, yeah.
Okay.
I think with age, I've maybe, because I've been exposed to more death, it's more front and center in my mind than perhaps it used to be. And the fact that, like, oh yeah, I'm also gonna die.
Yeah.
You experience a loved one passing away, and that becomes very present.
Sure.
But no, I never, the line that you're talking about of like, I'm gonna die and not, and pushing that threshold, I would say, at least in my experience, I'm sure there's data on this somewhere, but that line is actually a huge freeway of capability. And it's all based on your own personal experience in suffering. So if I show up to a race and I have just suffered more than other people that showed up, I'm going to do well. Because when it comes down to it, and I want it more than you do,
Yep.
I will hunt you down.
You've grown that capacity to.
Yep. And I know where my limits are, and I know that I'm probably not even close. That same thing happened on the motorcycle. These little mini breakdowns that happened in the beginning. Once 6 months kicked in, it was kind of laughable. And then it becomes exciting because you're not suffering anymore. And all these systems are becoming very efficient. And then when the systems become efficient, you're free to, move about the cabin. And that's kind of how life is. And on the Highline and on the bike too, I finally got to the point with all of these things that I've gotten into where it actually becomes very enjoyable. You can look around because you're performing at a high level automatically. And I don't know how many people arrive at that place. Some might call it some form of mastery. I like to, I don't know, steer more to the side of humility and just enjoy doing the thing. I think once you start tickling with that, I'm a master, or it's like saying I'm a humble person.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You were until you said it. Yeah. Where did highlining come in?
Yeah, that was the beginning of the question, right?
Yeah.
So now that we're there, bike accident. That was terrifying. I had to be in a neck brace for 6 months. And but I got a lot of attention from girls in college. That was, there's that. It was cute. And but I healed up, and then a year later to the date, I did Ironman, which was awesome.
Yeah. Was that something you set like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the staple. So being able to do that, then you're a triathlete, But it was also a different realization too in that moment, because I got to that proverbial top, and it kind of wasn't what I thought it would be. And that's a weird place to arrive in life.
What made up it, you seeing it that way, is like, this is closer to the top, or like a level of achievement that you hadn't hit before? Like, what were those elements?
It mainly came down to intentions, and what what my desire, like telling the universe what I thought that moment should produce.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good way of putting it.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people probably fall into that. Like, well, I'll be happy when, I'll feel fulfilled when, I'll be healed when. And so probably in my kid brain, it was like, well, now I'm stronger than, my father that left or whatever. Whatever millions of things are built into us through our experience.
So not even external affirmation, internal places that you had set for yourself. This, when I do this, you have that expectation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't even really voiced. It was just kind of, there was still a void
Yeah.
in a way. And I just kind of, I don't know, I felt myself deviating from that style of movement. Maybe it was an intuitive move. I was tired too. I mean, I'd been doing it for close to 10 years. It's like, all right, this is really fun, but I don't know if I want to become elite, because then the margins are just ridiculous. And there was actually a moment, we will get to the highlining, but there was a moment on my training. I was on a training ride for Ironman. That was my last big training ride. And I was doing a brick session where I think I started with a swim and I did 1.5 miles. And then I went out on my bike and I did like 90 miles. And then I went home and I ran like 13 miles or something. And I finished my run, stopped my watch, and I was like, I am so strong. I'm not even tired. Holy crap. And I had this weird fear actually, because I realized a lot of things in that moment. One was, I don't know if I'm ever going to be as strong as I am right now. I've just been training my face off. How cool it is to be in that moment. And also realizing, wow, if I want it, and I'm not even fast compared to the fast guys, this is going to be a long path. And I don't know, I kind of felt change in the air, and my life was changing. I wasn't going to do, the Navy. And so I kind of got a little nervous, and I got a big boy job. I got a real job in a corporate structure, and I wanted to jump out the freaking window. It was a hard moment of just kind of doing what I thought I was supposed to do. And everybody was confirming that, yeah, this is great. You're thinking about your future. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be around. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in an enclosure. I don't want to be in in an office. And then I discovered highlining. I think I watched a video that had come back, I don't know, somehow YouTube or something. It was these French guys. It's called Flight of the Frenchies.
Okay.
And they were pioneering the craziest shit I'd ever seen in my life. And there's this one momentous occasion in the film where this guy free solos without a harness this beautiful gap in Norway, Bernard. And I just, again, it was this whole new seed planted in my brain, and I saw it all. I saw the whole thing like a flash of lightning just blasting into my soul, and I became super immediately obsessed. So I started, and this was before there were tools to find people. There was no Instagram.
So this wasn't even a connection.
No.
You met someone in the middle of the triathlon world or anything like that. This is you in corporate world. Miserable. I think I can characterize what you just portrayed. You're miserable, and then you see a video. Like I remember the documentary Man on a Wire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Petite and so
inspiring.
So you see this.
Yeah.
And then how do you pursue it?
At that point I had gotten decently into climbing. We started climbing when we were young, and it's just kind of a fun sport. I was a little bit familiar with some of the climbing gear, but I had I tried Googling as much as I could. There was nothing coming up. It wasn't a sport really in the degree that it is now. There were people doing it. They started slacklining, I think, in the 70s in Yosemite.
Say that again. They started what?
Slacklining, which is like highlining down low.
Okay.
I should probably specify that anyway. Yeah. Slacklining. Yes. The art of walking on a piece of rope. It's either 1 inch or 2 inches,
Okay.
flat rope.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they've technically been doing it for a while, but it was just kind of like a pastime when they weren't climbing. And then it started becoming expanded. And yeah, so I didn't really know how to find anyone. So I started watching the movie. I watched it like 50 times. And I was trying to find something in that footage that would lead me to highlining.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything until this one scene. And I could see it in my head. There was this piece of equipment. It's purple or green. They come in 2 different colors, but there was a number on the side of this really thick piece of equipment. And I didn't know what it was. So I Googled that number and it said it was a span set. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Turns out it's like a heavy lifting piece of equipment that's made out of like a polyester, and it's a full circle, and they use it to do heavy lifting in construction and stuff like that. So if you see cranes lifting huge stuff, there's usually like a green.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a span set. So then I Googled span set highline, and that led me to this website called Balance Community. And it was a slackline website. It was a highline website. There was actual stuff. There were people doing it.
It's amazing though, just how you get to that.
Yeah.
So good.
So then I still didn't really know what gear I needed or anything.
Yeah.
But at the bottom, there was like a send us an email thing. Figured, why not? One little email can change your life, right? Little did I know. Hey, my name's Ryan. I'm in Sacramento. I'm really interested in highlining. I don't know if anyone's on the other end of this, but it'd be cool to maybe get some insight. Immediately get a response. Hey, man, my name's Jerry. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go with it? Anyway, we had this interaction. Long story long, I show up. He tells me, I'm in Davis. Davis is like an hour away from Sacramento, 45 minutes.
Okay. Showtime.
What? How are you in Davis? Oh, my wife's studying here. Cool. So I show up to Davis and he brings some webbing for me. I see this guy from across the parking lot, and it's the guy from the video that I found.
Wow.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah. Jerry.
So you have to be euphoric in that, like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, this
it's like
is
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Like first time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about a new sport. You get to meet the Michael Jordans. And at that moment, it was just the universe was just handing it to me at that point. What is it that I heard the other day? If it's good, it'll chase you even if you run from it. And if it's bad, it'll, the opposite, run from you. Mm. This was just chasing me. I mean, I wanted it too, but so anyway, it just cascaded into this reality.
Wow. So is that Jerry, or who was the mentor for
Jerry
you?
was my first mentor.
Okay.
Yeah, Jerry Mashesky. And he was the record holder at the time and had gotten more into sport than probably most people at that time. And then little by little, we just started picking up, stragglers, and we had this motley crew of rope walking hooligans, and we just went nuts with it. And it just turned into a big fever dream, honestly. And I actually remember when it started getting more serious, because I was getting opportunities to travel and do this. And I was having to say no because I had a job. And one day I was sitting in my office and I just had a total breakdown, hyperventilating, freaking out. And I called my little brother, and I'll never forget it. It was so interesting. I didn't expect to get this advice from him, but I went to the bathroom stall and I shut the door. Like, I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. And he said, you're always going to be able to get a job doing any kind of marketing, but you may not have this opportunity again. Go for it. So I knocked on my boss's door. He was in a meeting. He's like, hey, is this important? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of important. I need to quit. Oh, okay. Like today? Yeah. And I quit.
That day.
I quit that day. Sold all my racing bikes and all my equipment and bought a bunch of ropes. Fairly confident that my family thought I was genuinely losing it to go from, this career and this path to complete deviation from that, to become a dirtbag and buy a van and just disappear into the wilderness for what ended up being over a decade.
Did you see that as kind of an end too of your triathlon career?
Yeah, I never really defined it that way. But yeah,
I mean, it was
I
just
guess.
kind of a new chapter. I mean,
Yeah,
you're selling your stuff and
yeah.
okay.
I never really had a hard time changing. Yeah. I think people get really attached to their characters, and I just never really have, because I've never really felt like one character.
Yeah. I wondered if part of that was, you getting to a mountaintop type moment in triathlons and kind of seeing, okay, what do I want to go after the next? Now, I mean, because you have things like, Iron Cowboy today is doing 50 in 50 days and 100 in 100 days, things like that, where you're going, okay, so what is setting or raising the bar
Yeah.
next? Is that in me? Do I want to do that? So I didn't know if that played into that with you in that moment of kind of
A
going.
bar raising,
Mm-hmm.
probably deep down somewhere, still trying to fill that void or something, and that has turned into something completely different too. Fast forward, back to the end of the motorcycle trip, and I actually gained a lot of revelation on what that void is.
Yeah, talk to me.
Well,
We'll come back to Highline.
yeah.
That's our time together. We're always just going to say we'll come back to
Okay.
Highline.
We'll draw a map later and it'll go like this.
Mm-hmm.
The void is just life. We're alive. I mean, if I had a map of what my life was going to look like until I died, that sounds horrible to me. Well, tomorrow you're going to do exactly this. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I think, forget that with this sort of prescribed life that the majority of people live. No fault to anyone, but there's a certain degree of prescription, especially with comforts available. Who doesn't want to be comfortable? This is a nice chair. At the same time, I understand the value of sitting on a freaking log in the middle of nowhere and knowing that there's this factor that you can't define that exists. It's almost like there are different dimensions that exist outside of like the confines of that general low energy comfort. And there's so much information available to a person if you have the courage to expose yourself to an extreme amount of suffering relative to where and who you've been in your life. So for my kid brain, nothing worse could have happened than my father leaving our family. It was so devastating. And over the course of my life and all the suffering that I've endured, it all just becomes this big wave in the ocean. And there's peaks and valleys, and sometimes the waves crash, but you deal with enough. And for me, that solved the void problem, actually. I'm satiated for the first time in my life, maybe, actually. And I'm just now realizing this. It's very apropos to be here and like say it, because I am still learning. We have this, at least I can't speak for everyone, but I sort of had this expectation that the universe was going to give me, the valuable lessons that I would need the second I finished my motorcycle trip, or, the second this happened. This is a continuum.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't end. And we realize it when we share our experience with humans. I genuinely believe through my experiences in my life that each one of us is a portal and we have the universe inside of us. And if I can be that portal, then I can access the universe and like bring my ideas to life and make them real. And most importantly, doing it with and through other people.
Yeah.
You're here.
Yeah.
You're building a dream too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're watching your children learn how to build their dreams.
Yeah.
And they're little portals. They're closer to God than many of us are. And then they're little.
Yeah.
They're just connecting. They don't even know it. That's why they're so beautiful.
Yeah.
So spending time with my nephew is like the most profound moments of my life.
Recognizing that your ability to be present in it and not miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be present and not miss it. Like you're a parent, you know this. The kids say these things and you're just like, what? The other day, we're having a little campfire at his house. I went and visited him. He's 8 years old. He brings paper out. He goes, Uncle Ryan, we are going to write down something bad that happened last year, and we're going to throw it in the fire and burn it so that we can be happy.
He's a professional counselor already.
Yeah. And then the very next thing he says is, now we're going to write something that we like about Papa Paul. And then when it burns,
wow,
it'll go.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I would never even think of that. 2 days after my stepdad passed away, I'm out at the house with my little nephew. And something he said before he died is, he said, if you're missing me, I'll be shining down on you. And this little boy wasn't even there when he said this, mind you. And I go outside and I'm spending time with him, and he goes, Uncle Ryan, look, that's Grandpa Paul. And he points to this one star. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did Paul come in the picture for you?
I was 16.
Okay.
We were arch enemies for a minute. I was, protective of my mother.
Yeah. You're 16.
Yeah.
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 All bowed up and angry and.
Oh yeah. I'll never forget so a little bit of context. My dad was very hard. He like ranch raised, tough as nails. He very unemotional, very difficult time connecting with his emotions. Paul, he is just pure life, technicolor, wild, strange, the most creative and curious and exquisite person. I didn't even understand him when he came into the picture. I'm like, who are you? I had this picture of what a man is, tough and strong and whatever.
Never breaking, never.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, I faced him, chest to chest, man to man. That's a 16-year-old, right? And he just smiled at me. You're just going to smile at me? You're not going to try to fight me? My dad was very physical. And then I knew that's the guy. Because he was never trying to compete. He didn't need to prove himself as that kind of strength. He was just weird and wonderful. His heroes were Snoopy and Scrat from Ice Age, if you see it, that kind of guy.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was a perfect time of life for him to come in, and he really changed me and my ability to understand a new way of living that was so different than anything I'd ever seen, which was pain and anger and yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, let's do it again. Back to highline.
Okay, let's go back to the high line.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a new community that you're in.
Yep.
You're in a van. I think you said you're traveling to all these spots.
Yep.
To set up and walk a high line. Like I don't even know where to start with it. Like
I don't either.
As you're learning it, what height are you starting at, and like how did that mentorship? Because you said something earlier about the safety of it and
Um,
how important that was of you learning how to do that part,
yeah.
which is I would never think that. I would think all your energy would go into, what it is to walk and that. So that's fascinating for me. So you're learning that. How do you go from that to, I mean, you're considered a professional highliner. What take me to that delta.
Yeah, it just all started as a fever dream.
Okay.
It started with like there wasn't an expectation. There was no sport.
Mm-hmm.
And because there was no sport, nobody was forcing anything. We were just driven by this adventure, this adventurous spirit. I mean, think about this. We live at a time where it feels like most adventures have been had, especially if you expose yourself to the internet. You're going to see other people that have already done the thing that you thought you might be interested in doing, and sometimes that actually can steer people away from it. But there was no sport. It just didn't exist. To me, it was just walking on a rope. There wasn't even really too much of a definition for anything that was happening. And thankfully, being mentored, I was taught how to properly anchor, how to look for anchors, what kind of rock to look for,
Yeah.
what kind of metal to use, all these technicalities that I often forget about because, like I mentioned earlier, when you have automaticity due to just efficient systems, it just runs, in the background system. You don't really have to keep it up here. And so sometimes that can be challenging to kind of explain how much depth there is to to creating a safe environment for a highline to exist. And that leads into the other kind of funny part of it is the act of highlining is so epic. It's very mythical, archetypal in ways, and so many references in business meetings. It's like walking a tightrope and living that physically. I've realized that the walk is just the payoff. Rigging that shit, it's hard. It's so hard. But I loved it for that too, because that was it fell in line with my ability
The suffering
to
and
suffer. Yeah.
Okay.
And some of these lines are huge. I mean, over a mile long. And you're carrying stupid amounts of webbing across canyons to rig it across. And you have to make sure that every section is perfect and safe. And so on longer lines, we have them segmented now into like 50-meter pieces. And at every 50 meters, there's a connecting point. We use different materials for that.
What do you mean by connecting point?
So we've learned over time that by segmenting the line, we can create a higher degree of safety, because then a section might fail, but because we have a backup system, there's like multiple backup systems that end up making the whole operation a bit safer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but at every 50-meter section, there's a connecting point, and every connecting point has to be perfect. So there's a little bit more to mitigate, and there's all this different stuff going on, and then there's different material. So we're using polyester, we're using nylon, we're using more high-tech webbings now that are combinations of things, and it's kind of like picking a race car based on the terrain. So there's heavy webbing, there's super light webbing for if you're just wanting to cruise. There's very dynamic webbing if you're wanting to get bouncing happening and different tricks that are happening these days.
Does the environment obviously has to play into that as well? Like heavier webbing for more windy or?
Yeah. There's certain conditions that definitely favor certain types of webbing. Yeah. Or different weather like humidity can have a huge effect on webbing. Obviously wind can have a huge effect on how you rig in the wind and what it's going to do to the line and all that stuff.
Where are you at in your mind when you are on the line?
In here. Yeah, just systems checks and trying to, but it's different, right? Because you're in triathlon, I'm trying to go fast. So I went from running fast to walking really slow. It's very funny to consider. Also similar in certain ways because depending on how long the line is, one of my longest was 1.35 kilometers, close to a mile. And I was out there for an hour and 45 minutes, one direction. You watch a movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a specific moment. You'll enjoy this. So I'm looking down and I see this huge boulder about 700 feet below me. And I said, okay, that's my reference point. And now I'm going to count 1,000 steps. And just then I'm going to look down and see how far relatively it appears I have gone. So see the rock, count forever, walking.
You got 1,000 steps.
1,000 steps, yeah. And then I look down, same boulder. Okay, this is going to be, that's when the demons can come in. The fatigue demons and the, I can't do this. And it's a very unique sport because it's contingent upon, in certain ways, walking without falling. And we call it ascend, similar to climbing. And so there's this constant pressure across that whole experience that one fall means you failed.
Now you're clipped in.
Yeah.
You have a safety harness that you're clipped in, and is there a couple of those? Like there's an ankle one, and then
Just a waist mainly.
okay.
Yeah, so a climbing harness and then a rope. And
Okay.
yeah. I brought them. I'll show you later.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so the safety line, this is a little bit tangential, but it's another one of those rules that actually liberates you. And when I've free soloed, but it's very different because there's a limited amount of freedom with free solo, ironically, but you're not free to try new things. You're not free to explore the bounds of what those physics are, unless, you're trying to die. You don't want to do that. So the leash liberates that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So getting back to like sending the line, if I catch the line or fall off the line, then that doesn't count as a send. So if you're going for a world record, you're trying to walk it without falling, period. And it creates an anxiety. And there's a lot of tangents to life with that too. We feel like if we fall, we're just going to fail. But nobody really sees the thousands. I mean, so many falls I couldn't even try to count that I've taken. I didn't even walk a really big line for almost a year of being in the sport. The webbing was also different. It was a little bit harder. We hadn't figured out a lot of the stabilization technology and stuff. So,
which may have been helpful.
Yeah.
For you on a crash course of what it is to balance on a line if you're having to start on something that's less stable and
way better.
Yeah.
Way better. I actually, in a way, I feel sorry for people that have more technology. Like in a way, it speaks to this generation. There's more, there are more tools that exist now than have ever existed. You go back 50 years and you had to figure it out.
Yeah, that was scrappy.
Way harder.
Yeah.
But there's value in that because you know how things work.
Yeah. So
without knowing how things work, the tools, they're not really tools. They're just like an iPhone. It's very much the same. It's also a weapon of destruction. So, yeah, but learning about all that.
So where like the sponsorships came in and it was through highlining? Because I wondered that. I didn't know when that came in, if that was in triathlon world or since you've been
highlining.
In highlining.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, that was a Wild West too, because this sport, like I said, it didn't exist. And to this extent, to the magnitude that it now exists. And I was kind of working with the playbook that I knew, which was this classical sort of sponsorship, which has kind of evolved since then for a lot of reasons. But yeah, I finally started getting some recognition. And this was actually before Instagram too. So I was really grinding, and I had to be everywhere all the time to even have that kind of visibility. But I started getting seen and noticed by people, and opportunities would come up to do things. And little by little, it just started kind of cascading and multiplying, just like anything does, compounding. But one of the big focuses is I kind of saw the sport going the way of like the hippies a bit too much. And so I came in with this discipline, and I really wanted to make it a mountain sport, and I wanted to explore.
Ryan, help me with that. What do you mean by going the way of the hippie versus the discipline that you're talking about?
You know, it attracts a lot of different types of people, and in its simplest form, it's actually, here's something about this sport and a lot of like extreme sports that outsiders may not see. It's actually a lot of fun. So framing for a video, it's so often framed with this epic music and wow, and oh, he's doing this, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's just the community is not like that. It's fun, and we are enjoying our life, and we're happy-go-lucky, and sometimes that can, lead into like having a little bit too much fun, or it just takes it more down the side of, I don't know, pot smoking hippies.
Okay.
It's a good way of putting it. No disrespect. It's all with love. But I really wanted to take the discipline that I had developed with highlining and apply it to this and say, like, how crazy can we get? How far up this mountain can we get to these cliffs? And that got it's like a skateboarder that sees every curb. Like, yeah, we could, grind that and then transfer.
Yep.
Very much the same.
Yeah. Not dulled. Yeah. Senses fully there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we took it to the cliffs, and that was a big driver, is just seeing what gaps we could. And that's still one of my main focuses. I want to see these beautiful places from a high line and exist in that space where no human has ever existed.
How long did it take you to be able to be present in the sense of taking in the scenery of the gap?
A while. Yeah. My first high line, I just remember everybody was cheering me on, as they should have, it was all fun. But I remember falling. I barely stood up, and I just totally blacked out. I was just so scared. I thought I was going to die. It was just, one of those feelings that we've all experienced. And then over time, you slowly kind of come into a discovery of presence. But that took a long time, honestly. I mean, I was having really bad nightmares for a lot of years, actually, seeing my body hit the ground and
really
freaking out. Yeah. And then being invited to do these things over the course of that career, and waking up in the middle of the night before, watching my body hit the ground, and then having to go perform.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was different.
I'm assuming would mess with you in a not great way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and traumatic stuff. There was a moment in Moab several years ago. I was on, at the time, it was a world record line, just huge, across this stupidest canyon. It was just so monumentally huge. And I'm out there walking, and for the first time in my career, for the first time in my experience highlining, I heard multiple people screaming for me to get off the line. Never.
How far are you out?
I was so far. I was probably 400 yards out. This is not easy to get back. Even if so we have these rolling mechanisms that you can put around your waist and kind of pull yourself back.
Yep. Okay.
That's like 500 pull-ups. It's just not going to happen. I tried my best, and then I wanted to know why they were yelling at me. I look to my left, and I see a military helicopter at my height coming right at me. You don't have time to be scared. So I was just on autopilot. I'm just cranking as far as I could to get as close to the cliff, because in my head, he was going to hit it. And when he hit it, I had to be ready.
You're picturing this thing swinging, cutting and swinging.
So as he got closer, I got as far as I could. I took a carabiner. I put a clove hitch in the backup line. There's like a looser line on the bottom.
Okay.
I just put a knot in it, attached it to my harness, and I was like, please don't hit the line. And probably about, I don't know, 1,000 feet from the line, I saw him kind of tilt and pause. Thank you. But that doesn't go away either. That was heavy for a long time. Just seeing the potential. To him, I'm an ant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm invisible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised he even saw me. Yeah.
How often do those moments happen? And I would even say it this way. Let me ask it this way. How often does it happen? Because in my mind, it would almost be worse when it's not you, but you're watching someone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I've had those experiences too, and it's way worse because you're not in control. Yeah. But they don't happen that often, actually.
Okay.
No. Pretty rare.
Okay.
In fact, I've personally never had a serious injury on a high line. Yeah. All my injuries have been doing other stupid things. Yeah.
All right, back to when you're on it.
Uh-huh.
What was it like to get to that point where you could actually be present on the line?
It was incremental. It happened over the course of probably a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of time on the line. It's kind of like one of these, it starts to lessen, and the presence starts to increase. But it took a while. And now it's pretty automatic. People talk about the brain being different. We see these references of the amygdala, I guess. I don't know. I personally think that can be developed because I'm very capable of doing it now at a very passive level. So for example, if you and I were standing on top of a skyscraper, I would probably be standing further back than you. I just don't like it because I know the safety dynamics of these situations, and it's actually like it's more dangerous than being on a high line for sure because you're not leashed in. Someone could come up behind me and throw, there's just not a lot of safety. Yeah, so that's where my brain goes.
Okay.
Or just hanging out a window off a really high skyscraper or something. I don't like it. But if there's a rope going across and I know who rigged it, I'll jump right on. I don't have a problem. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is with a lot of things in life. That fear is a valuable mechanism to keep us alive on a foundational level.
Yeah.
You don't understand this. You should be really scared. You could die. Unfortunately, fear also can work against us in those ways too, if we allow it to. So, but it does become more complex, and it becomes more of like a logical pull from inside of, that part of the brain that's aware and has enough data, physical, hard-earned data, that I'm not going to die doing this thing because I've done it so many times, while also allowing that initial fear to remind us to harness in and check your knots. And people have died on high lines because they didn't check their knots. They got distracted and went out and fell off. It's unfortunate. It's weird to be in a sport long enough to see that happening when statistically someday it's going to happen, and then that Sunday comes, and it's really sobering how easily it happens. And it doesn't happen in the epic moments. That's another kind of fallacy with the Hollywood concept, right? It's always this epic moment. No, it happens when you are not paying attention. It happens when your friend cracks a joke when you're harnessing in and you respond.
Yeah, instead of, yeah.
And same with life, it's if your guard's not having your guard up all the time, but just understanding when it's time to be serious. I mean, there's a side of me that's a jokester and silly and I like to let loose and have fun. And there's a side of me that's very, very serious. And anyone that knows me knows both of those sides. And when I meet people, sometimes they'll say that this is the guy that's going to do the dangerous thing. Are you sure? Yeah, just wait. You'll see that side of him come out too. And when I'm rigging a line, it's very business time.
Do you trust yourself to mentor?
Yes.
In highlining? When did that take place?
My first experience mentoring, I had moved to Utah shortly after discovering highlining, and it was very intimidating. Yeah. You're a parent. You know more than I do, but that's a real thing. Someone's child is on my highline.
Right.
And it changes you from this happy-go-lucky, this is fun, other people are rigging it, I don't have to worry, to this is very serious.
Yeah.
You guys go have fun. Dad's going to make sure the highline's okay. And that shift started to certainly happen then. And then learning how to balance those two personalities too, But it's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
It really does change you to know and to remember that you have someone's kid or someone's husband or someone's friend out there, and they're trusting you with their life.
So unique too that, what Jerry did with you, it was so foundational to the sport. And so it's not like this has been passed down like we're not talking about, hundreds of years here. We're talking about a new sport.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so interesting that it's like almost second generation in this.
Mm-hmm. And there was a huge growing pain along the way of learning curves, crazy learning curves.
Yeah.
We were totally guessing half the time with, and he actually designs his own webbing too. So it was nice to have that capability, that access. And we were brainstorm with all these drawings of how to do things better and what kind of equipment would hold the webbing in the right way and allow us to make adjustments to it. And and we hit these walls. Like one of the walls we hit was the 1,000-foot mark. And so when I started highlining, the world record was 370 feet. Now it's like miles. It's ridiculous. But the 1,000 was the big number then. It was like the 4-minute mile.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to get it? And we failed so many times just trying to understand it because we couldn't get the vibrations to sync with the walker. It was taking us like 50 falls to get across. And just through that process of thinking outside the box and thinking creatively and just kind of happy accidents, actually, we were able to figure out the dynamics to create that harmony, and that just continued. And it taught me so many things about life. So cool. If you can just stick with something, just like really be focused with this passion for what you're doing. I don't know if there's really that many impossibles outside the confines of physics as we understand them, right?
Yeah. So what do you see, looking forward, Ryan? What do you see with yourself that you want to carry into this chapter?
Oh man, that's a great question. Man, it's a fun one to try to answer. I know through my experience, especially on the motorcycle, that I know exactly what I want to be, who I want to be. I understand who I am and what my values are. And I have very big and beautiful goals. And I kind of don't try to strangle the rest of it. I kind of like living that way. A little bit loosely scripted, but not trying to get too much in the way of it because it's just such a fun ride right now. And learning to balance that so that I can also enjoy the other things in life. I want to be a father. I want to, experience that.
Yeah.
Certainly. Well, you don't know. We're first time having this conversation, but I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said, just your perspective on sharing it all. And I wanted to hear that of, okay, how do you see that? What it looks like to share this. Do you feel like that there's a part of that you've had to sacrifice in, or maybe I should ask it this way. What do you feel the sacrifice is that you've had to make?
Um, I don't look at it as a sacrifice because it wasn't at the time. Through a certain framing, it can be seen as a sacrifice. But it's also created who I am comprehensively. So, but yeah, I mean, I've had to really focus in on this super unique path. And when I was younger, I used to jokingly say, well, I want to do what I love in my life because, then when I get married, she can't make me stop. Well, still single, so nobody here to make me stop. But yeah, kind of figuring out a balance to that, because I do see the way that I would love my life to be. I know how I like existing. I know the parts of my life that I want to see flourish and change and grow, and I know what I want to experience. And then having the ability to kind of surrender with that belief that there's something greater than me, and those seeds are planted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, at least in my life, the times when I've tried to make those seeds grow, come on, I'll give you vitamins or whatever, just do it. It doesn't end up, happening the way I want it to, or at all.
Yeah.
And then I end up messing up a process that's a bit more divine than I maybe would have considered it.
Yeah, it's good. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna kind of respond back to your original question, which is, I do see a design for my life, and it's very clear, and it's sacred to me, and it's exciting, and I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm really excited to figure it out. And it's hard to live a life where you're on a path. There was no path. There's a lot of paths you can take in life to find abundance, prosperity, whatever, and they're very clear. We have paved roads everywhere. And if you look at life that way, you can make whatever success you decide to make. But there's a more comprehensive perspective too that I'm learning through my experience, which is happiness isn't at the end of a big paycheck. It's not at the end of a world record. It's not.
Right.
It's a comprehensive, dynamic way of life where I can tend to all the parts and pieces and versions of myself, and someday be able to give that and become a giant oak tree to provide shade, and fruit. I heard this is a really good one I heard the other day. Peach trees don't eat peaches. They're for the passerbys.
Yeah.
The peach tree drinks water, and wisdom is what you get in return. And that wasn't always the case for me. It was very selfish for a lot of years. I didn't really know it as that, but it was all about me. I was driving and pushing and for records and want to be the best. And you realize, oh man, there's something so much better.
Yeah. What I wanted to push back into with you is just because you have this perspective of the communication of outgoing, and you talked about, journaling and then listening as you're in solitude. So to get to what you just described, what was said, what were you saying to the universe or to the divine? And then how did you listen in that? What are the moments that you look back and go like, this is what I heard, and you put it out in a journal, I know I heard this?
Wow. Great question. In my experience, it all comes down to movement, momentum, and action. We can think ourselves into any universe behind our eyes, and nothing will come of it if it isn't attached to movement and the present. And the answers they're not, it's hard to even try to describe it because it's not even an answer. It's just a movement. I look at life like bumper bowling. I know where I'm going. And, if I try to deviate a little too far, it's going to kind of knock me back. And sometimes it knocks you really hard back.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that for me. And I just know that the more I can create simplicity through delving into the complexities inside of myself and maybe my perception of the world, if I can do that. And I think that's what solitude is to me. It's horrible in a lot of ways. And there's a responsibility in solitude to come back. That's the hard part. That's how people go crazy. And I felt that, and I got too close to that line a couple times.
Tell me about that. What do you mean you got too close to that?
You can just feel it. It's like in a triathlon when your heart starts doing that thing that's not right, like palpitating, or you start feeling really cold when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
There's moments like that, where the conversations get a little, there's just, have you seen the play Pippin? Oh, man, I just saw it and learned that it was my stepdad's favorite play. I implore you to enjoy it.
Okay.
But it's kind of this man's journey of discovering himself. And towards the end of the play, there's this moment where he has just a wild realization, and it all clicks, and the whole play kind of clicks into place. I don't want to give it away because it's so good. I know you'll appreciate it. But there is a moment in our lives where that internal narrator can be the ego, call it what you want. I think they're probably all attached in different ways. But it wants you to, believe in that hero story, whether it's built into us, whether it's, conditioned from childhood. And I had to realize where that line was and bring myself back to reality, which can be hard to do when you're not having social connection.
There's no one there to help you define reality.
Yeah, there's no bumpers.
Yeah.
On the bowling alley, and the ball's over there. Yeah, so you gotta find the alley again. And I think maybe in a way, it could be me trying to put meaning to it. It's not beyond me to consider that, but being hit by that truck might have just been something like, bro,
come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to be here. This is happening. And it's happening right now. And it's about to get a lot crazier. And you don't think it can get crazier after having an experience like that. But life it's very real. And it starts to happen in really real ways, especially at certain ages. These are things I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I think when you see it clearly, it's wonderfully beyond us. And that's the great part of, I don't have to have it figured out. I can be present, embrace it. And Ryan, it means so much. Dude, thank you. Thank you for just sitting in this with me and letting me into what you've done and what you've learned. You have good days ahead of you. like I'm better for getting this time with you. And I'm grateful.
Likewise. Yeah, genuinely. It's a huge pleasure.
Thank you. Ryan, thank you for being on After the Call. Bro.
Good to share energy with you, man.
Yeah, you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
You as well. Hey, thank you for staying with us all the way through this episode of After the Call. Listen, I want to ask you to like and subscribe, and then check out these other moments that we're sitting and letting people tell their stories and be honest about the mess so that there's hope that they can live with.